Howdy everyone, welcome back to another video. Before I discuss why I think Builderman is the best survivor in the game, I'd like to cover this update and voice my opinions on what I think they did right and wrong. Overall, I think this update was super well put together and just made the game more balanced and fun in general. However, there's a few things I think they overly nerfed or just didn't need to buff to begin with. Before I rant about my opinion though, I'll disclose what the update actually did and simplify it for those that don't understand the changes. Without further ado, enjoy the video. With this update came a lot of new songs, skins, emotes, and balance changes. For this video though, I'm only going to disclose the balance changes, because I'm extremely iffy on some of it. Starting with the universal changes. When survivors now fall from heights, they're staggered for even longer, meaning they're slower for slightly longer than before. Killers no longer stagger when falling, which is a nice change since this should demotivate survivors from camping. The more characters with stuns in the game, the less the killer will be stunned for in total. This makes it so people can't just full stack with Let's and expect to win every game, which is definitely a sigh of relief for most killer mains. For the last universal change, killers no longer drain stamina until they're within 125 stuns of a survivor. This really helps killers close the distance on survivors who abuse long sides of the map and practically allow the killers to never catch up. This also really helps Cool Kid locate survivors without his minions since he can use the stamina drain to tell if somebody is nearby. Moving on, the character changes this patch were severe. Starting with Shedletsky, they lowered the stun time on his sword from 4 seconds to 3.25 seconds. This makes it so he gets less distance after a stun, and he no longer gets a guaranteed heal after a stun. Also, they brutally nerfed the turkey leg. They made it so it only heals 5 health initially, and 35 health over the span of 10 seconds. As a Shedletsky player, I will admit both of these abilities were overtuned, and he's probably a lot more fair now, so I can't complain. Up next is Chance, which got some pretty understandable changes. When they released his first rework, the more chances there were in a game, the more likely the gun would backfire, which was honestly a pretty pathetic change. But now, they've gotten rid of that, and instead they made it so that when you first spawn in with Chance, your health could not exceed 90 health. I like this change, because if you had good luck with Chance, you just didn't need to reroll your health the entire game, and now you're motivated to actually use all of your abilities. It's also a good way to nerf this character without completely butchering what makes him good. So overall, I think they cooked with Chance. Oh, and I guess I should mention this, but when you reroll, it's no longer between 70 health and 120 health, it's between 60 health and 120 health, meaning you can have 50 health hypothetically. And finally, they slightly buffed him. They lowered the cooldown for Hatfix from 70 seconds to 60 seconds. Hatfix doesn't do a lot honestly, so this change is kinda okay. Elliot got some extremely brutal treatment this time around. His pizzas now heal other Elliots 30% less, and giving another Elliot your pizza will no longer replenish Rush Hour. This change is amazing, because one of the hardest parts about the character in the first place was killing him if he had a Rush Hour, and 2 good Elliots could win you for days. Aside from that, you can click on Elliots to ask for a pizza or see their cooldown. Builderman got buffed. His sentry now has 32 health instead of 30. Doesn't sound like a big change, but that makes it so John Doe can no longer instantly destroy the sentry gun. This is by far one of the most stupid changes they could have made. Builderman drastically needs a nerf, and in my Builderman video I'll disclose the way I'd balance him. That's about it for the survivor changes. Now for the killers. All the killers received 1 extra walk speed. This allows them to manage stamina a lot easier and close the distance slightly quicker on survivors. I like this change, it's very respectable. Moving on, the nerfs almost everybody saw coming. John Cool Kid. Cool Kid got nerfed. Not only did he get nerfed, he got gutted. Let's start with the basic stuff. They nerfed the aimbot on mobile, so now they need direct line of sight for it to lock on. I agree with this change. The aimbot was awful and super unfun to go against. Another change I agree with is the hidden status effect on walk speed override. Back then, or prior to the update, walk speed override used to slow you down on hit. I thought it was a glitch, or I was just losing my mind every time I got hit, but no, it actually did slow you down. I like this nerf as well because every time you got hit by it, you're almost dead guaranteed every time. These 2 changes I really like on Cool Kid, but they reduce the damage on all of his abilities. Corrupt Nature down from 20 to 15, Cool Kid's Pizza Close burning duration down from 10 to 3, walk speed override damage was nerfed from 45 to 40, and honestly I disagree with all the damage nerfs on Cool Kid. That was his gimmick, he killed you super quick. I think they should revert the damage changes, but I really didn't like the former aimbot or slowness on walk speed override, so don't bring those back please. They did secretly buff him though. To compensate for the gigantic nerf on Cool Kid in general, they gave him stun immunity after landing walk speed override. I enjoy this change. and it's significantly stronger than Raging Pace because you can actually react to the Shaletsky sword. Now, the killer that really needed a nerf. Jason. Yeah, they also nerfed Jason. Okay, so it's a pretty small nerf, but like, really? They made it so in Raging Pace, his stamina cap went from 75 to 70. It's just so unnecessary. He's already the most lackluster killer in the game, and you're nerfing him? I don't know. Moving on. Okay, now no joke this time. John Doe actually did receive a change. Thing is, it wasn't really a nerf. His traps were slightly reworked. Digital footprint speed and slowness went from 15 seconds durations to 10 second durations. 15 seconds was overkill, so I completely agree with this change, but they made it so it applies corruption 1 for 10 seconds now. I tested this in game. It does exactly 19 damage every time, almost 20. I know it sounds like I'm hating, but I really don't think John Doe needs a buff. I'm personally okay with this change because it demotivates survivors from triggering the trap whenever they want, but it just doesn't feel right for some reason. He just really doesn't have any weaknesses at all, and they're making him stronger. Oh well. Now, 1x4 received some changes too, and holy moly they're crazy. They lowered the end lag on mass infection, kind of unnoticeable, but I think it's fair enough, it's a super slow move. They nerfed the damage over time on mass infection, lowering the poison level from 3 to 1, and the poison and glitch duration is now lowered from 7 seconds to 5 seconds. They also lowered the damage on the close range variant from 20 damage to 5, but they increased the range damage from 15 to 35. People think they nerfed the damage on the close variant, but it was actually buffed. Like, in general, this move was buffed. It kills earlier, does more damage, and does insane damage point blank. I really like this change, because mass infection feels so much more rewarding now, and it feels like an actual threat. I think they should just increase the cooldown on it for sure though. Maybe from 14 seconds to 24, it's too spammable for how much damage it does now. But they didn't just change mass infection. They reworked Rejuvenate the Rotten, aka Necromancy. The zombies are now 2 studs slower, but killing a zombie grants speed 1 for 10 seconds. I don't even think I have to remark why this is useful, but 1x4 being the slowest killer in the game now has 3 different speed boosts. This, I think, is an amazing change, and I'm honestly not sure if he's overtuned now. The only real downside to the killer at the moment are some maps, and sometimes really well coordinated teams make him super hard to kill with, but that applies to every killer. They also rebalanced Horror Hotel, making it a much more balanced map in general, so it's far less survivor-sided. However, maps like Yorick's and the new map is outrageously survivor-sided. Hopefully they find a way to nerf these maps because it's drastically unfun for the killer. Finally, they fixed a few glitches just to make the game more balanced altogether. There was a glitch with John's corrupt energy that made it do more damage than intended, and they have announced it's fixed. Guess used to be able to nullify the slowness he would get after whiffing his charge by instantly blocking, but that's been patched. They fixed Cool Kid's clones hitting you as they're despawning, so you're no longer going to just suddenly get burnt by an invisible creature. They fixed Brandon Works having more generators than intended. I don't really know how I feel about this change. On one hand, they can't lower the timer as much. On the other hand, there isn't as much to do on the map, which results in camping. Another John buff that's more likely a bug fix, his walls now go uphill. I don't know exactly how steep it can go up, but I've seen people use it a few times already, and I have to say it's a very nice quality of life change. Overall, the changes are really good for some characters such as Seletsky, Elliot, 1x, and John. However, I heavily dislike how hard they butchered Cool Kid, and just such an unnecessary nerf for Jason too. Not to mention they buffed Builderman, which I know it's because there's a common belief that Builderman is very low tier, but I promise you the Survivor is outrageously strong. Next video I'll show why. Stay tuned.